The spring is here, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely seeing some changes in terms of tone and market activity compared to last year. Prices, volume, inventory. I got the craziest stat on dollar volume of business that is going to probably confirm a lot of suspicions for people that are actively involved in the business, but shock a lot of people that are kind of on the outside looking in.
Today, I've got Zack here from Zack Brittain. We're here for another Waterloo Region market update, but things get spicy on this interview. I encourage you to stick to the end. Elmo is back. The world is on fire. It's a dumpster bin. We do make some great cases for why it's an interesting time as an investor, as a first-time home buyer, and just as a resident in the Waterloo region.
Volume of sales. This is the stat that is going to make some people puke. We had $605 million in volume of sales in February 2021. We have less than half of that in 2026. So that means there's 50% less dollars flying around for agents, for mortgage brokers, for rando guys that are fixing and flipping homes, that are, renovating homes that are being bought and sold, for stagers, for photographers, for everybody that's involved in the real estate industry. There is less than 50% of the value of business trading hands any given month compared to just 5 years ago. Those of you that stuck around to the end of the video, I'm gonna make Adam want to puke. I'm gonna make any of you property holders in Waterloo Region or investors and developers just want to punch your screen. Please don't do that.
Welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I'm Adam J.D. Martin, your host, and today I've got Zack here from Zack Brittain. We're here for another Waterloo Region market update, but things get spicy on this interview. I encourage you to stick to the end. Elmo is back. The world is on fire. It's a dumpster bin, but we do make some great cases for why it's an interesting time as an investor, as a first-time home buyer, and just as a resident in the Waterloo region. So thank you guys for joining us back here again. Zack, welcome to the channel.
We are ready to rock and roll. We got some macro stuff. We got some current market stuff. We got some politics stuff. We got some golf stuff. Oh, baby, all good things. The spring is here, ladies and gentlemen, and I can feel it. I know my personal experiences in the real estate market are but a sliver of everything that's going on, but definitely seeing some changes in terms of tone and market activity compared to last year. So that's kind of exciting. But we'll jump into my macro outlook because I'm actually an economist now, like every other mortgage broker and real estate agent out there. And I actually went to school for economics. Jesus, maybe I should use some of that. Waterloo Region, prices, volume, inventory. I got the craziest stat on dollar volume of business that is going to probably confirm a lot of suspicions for people that are actively involved in the business, but shock a lot of people that are kind of on the outside looking in. Rental market CMHC data, hell yes. I finally got a good update for 2025 Q4 rental data straight from CMHC. Good friend of the program and awesome client of mine actually sent me the report after they saw it on a presentation. It is available for download, so if you guys need it, just do some quick Googling or shoot me a message. And then short-term and long-term trends locally, because there's a lot of Toronto noise, a lot of Canada and North America as a whole noise, not a ton of hey, what the hell is actually happening specifically for Waterloo Region. And then we'll finish up with the so what segment. I like putting things in plain terms for myself and my clients. That's how my brain works. And the so what segment is a chance for me to get really blunt and really clear with how I view things and what I think is really going to be going on for buyers and sellers and investors. So off the top, I have to thank the Canadian Real Estate Channel, subscribers, some of the commenters, not all of you guys and girls, most, but I've had some amazing conversations with, other people that are doing some small to medium-sized developments like we're getting into, investors that are banging their face against the wall, trying to figure out how to kind of get some lending on some stuff. And then a couple of you younger investors that are one or two properties deep, or we're getting ready to make that first move. So a lot of really good conversations for people that are coming through and a lot of really good interactions on the comments on the last kind of 2 or 3 videos. So thank you guys for that. Open invite for anybody that wants to connect with us. We're running a couple ADU open houses throughout the spring and the summer. If you or your parents or any investors, contractors that are looking to kind of get involved in those or build some of them. Sixplex and 10plex tours, sixplex tours coming up. We do one-on-one investor calls. I got a couple slots a week kind of set aside for that. And they're usually taken up pretty good. And that's usually kind of a topic of the investor choice. But open invite right now. I will put it on the investor hot list, but we're going to do golfing this spring and this summer and this fall. So if any of you are into golf, you want somebody to make you feel good about your golf game and you want to talk shop, I'll typically be booking off either a 9 or an 18 once a week, especially in the summer, maybe not the spring because spring's just a little too crazy. But anybody that wants to come round on me, I'm happy to come chop it up. We can talk about whatever you want. I had a chance to do this with a couple other people in corporate and in financing and in the lending side where they just kind of had like an open calendar invite. And I thought it was a great idea. So I'll make it official on the investor hot list. But if anybody's watching now and wants to get a sneaky round in early, this is your chance. This is your chance. So
Love that.
macro highlights. I say highlights. They're mostly low lights, guys. The
Just
macro
like,
is not looking real high right now. Only thing I think that is kind of one of the big variables that is tipping in favor of people looking to get active and do a little bit more business in real estate is a little bit of the stabilization in rates. But as I say that, there's whispers that rates may come up because there are inflation scares.
yeah,
So I'm seeing two sides of that coin. I think there's a lot of power in economies to keep rates low because they do need to stimulate straight up the business investment, lending environment, overall business expansion hasn't been booming, specifically here in Southern Ontario. A lot of people kind of reeling back the last few years. But now the rates are stable, we're starting to see people poke around to make decisions and start to see that, hey, rates aren't going to be yo-yoing up and down aggressively. Maybe we have a little bit more confidence that it'll be stable for the next few years. Let's make some decisions. So we're watching rates like a hawk. A big portion of the kind of the big thinkers are expecting rates to stay stable, or there's a big other boat saying, hey, rates may come up if inflation really gets cooking here. I can see both equally likely scenarios right now, just depending on how messy the US really wants to make things right now.
yeah.
Now, supply, just like rates, supply, population, and then like changing demographics and changing kind of preference in how people live are really the four kind of big things. Supply, housing starts are about to hit a 20-year low. Now, that's not mega important today, but like everything in real estate's slow, guys. So if builders and developers, your Mattamy Homes, your Activas, your Fusions here in Southern Ontario, if they're being like, yo, we're not starting shit, like
Yeah.
we can't even sell inventory we're holding, let alone have confidence we're gonna be able to sell what we can bring to market in 3 to 5 years at fair prices. So
Well,
why build?
and this is, by the way, on the heels of really, really low starts post COVID because of lumber pricing and everything that was
Couldn't get
going
people couldn't
on.
get supplies.
Exactly. So just, again, all of this and with real estate would just beg everybody, just zoom out. Every time you think you've got the answer, just zoom out a little more and just say
Yep.
like, hey, a housing start low right now is really bad when we've just had other housing lows as well in the past few years. So it's like hitting a new low doesn't mean like it's still relative that we were low.
Relative to the low.
So it's bad. Yeah.
Mm.
So
And
yeah,
on
good
that
point,
note,
Zach.
I caution people when they're looking at inflation data as well, because like when they're giving inflation stats, usually it's based on the previous year's inflation.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
not taking into consideration how aggressive inflation has been in the short
Yes.
in the short I mean short term, I mean last 5 to 10 years. Like
Yes.
they're like compared to last year, we're only up 3% from last year, but last year was up 10% from the year before. So
Yeah.
like we're not taking into consideration the compounding of the increase of inflation.
That's the right word because guess what? The previous periods inflation did not deflate. It didn't go away. It's still there. You're
No.
stacking. You're stacking every time. So just
And
this is how it
so
happens.
I think that's why I'm not beating the rates are going to be stable drum as hard as maybe some other people. Because like things are expensive. And if inflation starts going
Yeah.
up, rates are pretty much the only other lever they really have to pull because we're not injecting the economy with more jobs that are paying more money right now. So people can't afford shit. So the supply starts in Waterloo Region specifically. Like we'll get into it later with the CMHC data, but it's all rental housing. Like They're not building double car garage detached homes. They're not building affordable freehold townhomes. They're not building small semis and small detached that are at affordable prices, guys. New housing starts are condo towers, they're stacked townhouse complexes, and then they're mansions in the suburbs. No in between. If you think they're going to be building affordable stock that's detached homes or freehold, you are dead wrong. Builders and developers do not make money building those things. They make money charging you a premium to have a backyard, a garage, and an extra bathroom, an extra bedroom, or they build the smallest, cheapest thing that they can actually sell for anything and do as many of those as they can. I'm oversimplifying here, but that's generally speaking how builders and developers work. So, housing starts 20 years low. This is going to be important for anybody that is going to get involved in the market anytime in the next 5 to 10 years, because what's going to happen is as the supply that we currently have very slowly, I'm not going to say it's going to get gobbled up, very slowly, it will start to get picked up.
Yep.
And housing starts will only begin once they see that prices have rebounded to a point in which they can sell the new homes they want to build at a good price. Well, it's going to take months, quarters, years for supply to get gobbled up and prices to start rebounding to a point where builders are like, I can make money again. I'm going to start building these. And then it's going to take another couple of years for them to bring that supply. And
Yep.
so the cycle continues. And with that cycle, we also get changes in population and immigration. Within the next, I think, 10 years or less, it's projected that we're going to reach a net zero population growth rate without inflation
Yeah.
because it's too expensive to have kids and nobody wants to have kids anymore because it's expensive and terrifying and a lot of work because both parents have to work at least 30 to 50 hours a week just to be able to pay rent and buy a car and send their kids to school.
Yep.
Just saying. So population growth just been tanking. That's been a common theme since basically since our parents started having kids, Adam.
Yep.
Now we're starting to see immigration slow a little bit. There's a lot of really good data on like NPRs, non-permanent residents, number of skilled and unskilled visas, and the types of programs that they have, where they're bringing in people from. Like the immigration data is actually pretty good from compared to like a lot of fragmented real estate data because it's done at the federal and the provincial level. So it's slowing, but it's not stopping. The net migration out of areas like Waterloo Region, like your Londons, like your Torontos, based on student population, it's noteworthy for sure, especially here in Waterloo Region, because we have University of Waterloo that's like 50 to 60,000 people at any given time right down the way.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk of our population. So I'm watching that closely because the trickle effect is this. If there's a fight for all the student housing and there's not enough of it, they'll start going into, your midtown and your suburb properties to rent those. And those will increase the rents that, people that are graduated school and got their first apartment with their girlfriend or having their first kid before they buy their house, those prices will start to get a little bit more effective. And then next up, I wanted to kind of gloss over this and get into stats real quick, but shift in how people actually live. With rents being so high, it's really hard for people to save enough money to be able to like put a down payment on a house. And
Yeah.
most people, if they're living in a nice rental, they're thinking like, well, why would I move from this nice rental, save 50, 60, 70 large to go put 5, 10, 15, 20% down on a condo that's probably worse than what I'm renting now? Like, because the gap, one, just I think financial literacy and skills, but also just like the gap in short-term financial improvement and short-term, personal enjoyment and how nice you can get. Like that's really hard. You're gonna have to make sacrifices. Like I have multiple clients right now looking to purchase their first home, and they're like, "Man, I'm renting a sick place for like probably 500 to $1,000 cheaper than I can a month. Then I can go buy something. Why don't I just save my cash? I'll keep it in the market. I'll keep it liquid. I'll make my 3, 4, 5, 6% on it. Do nothing, no risk. Like the the market is slowly finding a place to where those buyers that want to get into the market for the first time actually see enough value in it, but we're not there yet. And those barriers, short term, are getting better for people like to try and save some money to try and get into the market for the first time, but that's not going to improve long term. Asset prices will continue to raise way quicker than you are going to be able to save if you're just working a normal 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Like they just are because we're
Yeah.
not going to
And
build
there's
enough
but
because
there's a
we're
little
hitting a
bit of a
20-year
trap in
low.
this too, because like I agree with the first time home buyer that's like, hey, it's really uncertain right now. I've got this great rental property. I want to mitigate risk. I don't see the value proposition in risking my capital and being stuck with this mortgage and rates could go up and all of that. I agree with that entire thing. The challenge is, and this is where I think we need to critically think as as you know, people at least promoting information here and good information on the channel. It's like the challenge is if you do wait in the long term, I think Zach's right that prices will outpace your ability to save and to earn more money. And so that's where it's like some of these uncertain periods, if you're finding price points that actually do make sense for your life and for your risk tolerance, your lifestyle, a lot of the times these periods of uncertainty are where the most opportunity is. And the trap is that a lot of people wait until it looks more stable. And it's those stable periods in which prices actually drive up because rates go down. So it's a little bit of a trap, but I do understand people's fear, right?
Definitely a little bit of a trap. And I think if you're like a single individual or a couple, no pets, no kids, have location freedom, and don't
Yeah,
have specific needs in terms of like features that you need to have in your property, then like the risk is much lower for you to just be a perennial renter and save your
sure.
cash and be liquid and invest something else with it. But the reality is, by the time most people get to their 30s, they got partners, they have family responsibilities, whether they're taking care of their own kids or they're going to be taking care of their parents or another family member, or they have pets, or they're going to want to start a family, or they're going to need specific features like an extra room for work from home office or a garage for all their shit. And that just makes it harder for you to continually find something suitable to rent. And
Yeah.
so I see both sides of it too. Waterloo Region data. We'll do quick hits here, and then I'm going to jump over to our interactive graphs real quick. Price is down 4 to 7% year over year. This is of the end of February. By the time this video comes out, I looked at March data. It's not reconciled yet. We're going to bump up a little bit in March, I suspect, in terms of average price point. I'll talk about the segments we expect to see that in. But from last year, we're about 4 to 7%. Condos are down a little bit more than the 7%. They're an outlier in the sense of just an insane amount of inventory and it's just getting gutted right now. Volume of sales. This is the stat that is going to make some people puke. We had $605 million in volume of sales in February 2021. We have
Yeah.
less than half of that in 2026. Our
Yeah.
population is up. The value, total value of real estate sales on MLS is less than 50% than it was 5 years ago. So that means there's 50% less dollars flying around for agents, for mortgage brokers, for rando guys that are fixing and flipping homes, that are, renovating homes that are being bought and sold, for stagers, for photographers, for everybody that's involved in the real estate industry. There is less than 50% of the value of business trading hands any given month compared to just 5 years ago. So
Yeah.
I was just like, holy shit. There is going to be a lot of blood in the water, if there is not already, for agents, mortgage brokers, people that are directly involved in the sales of properties in Waterloo Region and all of Southern Ontario. I would assume would mimic very closely to this.
Yeah.
But this one was like, holy shit,
So,
holy shit.
Zach, what
Um,
what is your take on that? Can I just ask you a question about that? What do
yeah,
you think about like how does that generally affect the consumer, right? So it's a little strange to see both the prices dropping like that and the volume be so much lower. So are we seeing like a general increase, or if not an increase, at least a stability then in rental pricing? Like how
yes.
is that getting
So
balanced? Yeah.
we'll go deep dive rental rates for this for the CMHC
Okay.
data, but for an end user, it's tricky because you gotta take the stats brain off and think practically. Let's say I'm a real estate
Sure.
agent, because I am. I sell real estate in Waterloo Region. 10th year. If I have 50% less business,
Yeah.
like, am I cutting back on things? Am I going to be making concessions? Am I going to be trying to cut costs on, maybe I go to a cheaper photographer, maybe, I don't work with a stager anymore. Maybe I'm fighting with more agents to get listings from clients and I'm not doing, right? Like, there's just going to be more competition. There's going to be the same amount, we're sorry, more competition for less business. And eventually
Yeah.
what's going to happen is agents that aren't, for example, real estate agents that aren't able to provide value to clients or to continually maintain their trust and provide good service, they will lose business to somebody else that is doing that, or lose business to somebody else that's willing to do a comparable job but much cheaper because they're willing to take less for jobs than they would previously because they need the business. Now, we're
Yep.
lucky that we're fairly insulated. A lot of our clients are repeat clients. A lot of our clients are personal friends or family that we've done either investment deals with or investment properties with, and now they're doing primary residence. and just a little bit of experience, like 10 years in the business. There's hundreds and hundreds of transactions that'll come back my way over the next 10 years of my career. So I think for the end user, you have just a little bit more options and you have a little bit more leverage. You can have conversations with your mortgage broker about, hey, can we get a different rate? Or hey, can we go look at other lenders? Because lenders are fighting for business right now. Same with
Yeah.
real estate agents. Hey, is there anything else you can do to, help put me in a position to sell my property? Or what else can you do to help me find a really good deal to go purchase a property? Because there's less business on the table. And if there is a deal on the table, people are going to be willing to fight for it more because they need it, right?
Yeah, I think the market will respond positively to what you just described. Like I
Absolutely.
personally think there was too many realtors, there were too many mortgage agents, there was too much noise in the system in the 2021 period where everybody's making all sorts of crazy money and doing no work for it. And so now I think what's going to happen here is just like a true Darwinian experience, and that's fine. Like
Yeah.
that's I feel fine about that.
Free
Uh,
market, right? And that's
yeah,
what it
and
should be.
so I guess I'm interested then as we jump into the stats to just hold this idea in our head as we're going through these stats that hey, there's 50, but more than 50% drop in volume. So let's just see how that impacts the numbers. Like, what does that mean in terms of days on market? What does that mean in terms of rental prices? What does that
Yeah.
mean like for the consumer, the investor, the first time home buyer, everybody? So
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
let's
and
let's
so
jump in.
let's jump into the data behind it. Now, I also think that we will see people exiting the industry, mortgage
Yeah,
brokers, real estate agents, right? I think there's a lot of people that jump into the industry when there's easy money, and there's a lot of people that'll jump out when it's not easy money, right?
yeah,
Like anything else. I think our industry is going through a huge cycle, and I think the next upheaval will be as AI kind of really establishes itself on
yeah.
how people that are going to win in the business use it. That's still, I think, a couple of years away. So once we get gutted from everybody that can't make any money in these next few years in the market, we'll have the AI conversation, which I'm actually excited for. But for rental
Yep.
markets, we're going to see what I think a lot of people needed and what I think a lot of people expected as the market really shifted. Is vacancy rates are going to come up. They already have. They're not high, but they're higher than they have been for the last 5 to 10 years. Now, I say that knowing the last 5 to 10 years, our vacancy rates have been so low. So yeah, even though they've
Yeah.
risen, they're kind of like where they should be or close to where the average should be long term. So if you're looking at 10-year averages or 50-year averages, Waterloo Region should be between 3 and 5% vacancy. Our vacancy is typically traditionally lower than most Ontario markets because we have such an aggressive population of students, and
Yeah.
that's lumped into the vacancy data. And there is never vacancy for student rentals, at least until
Yeah.
recently because they've overbuilt in Uptown Waterloo a little bit. But generally speaking, our market's a little bit more skewed than, let's say, a comparable sized city that doesn't have as high a percentage of student population. Now,
Yeah.
rental growth rates, I laughed at this, and this is from I'm summarizing from the CMHC report. If you guys can't find it, I think I sent out a link or an offer for it on the um, oh my god, on the
Investor
investor
hot
hot
list.
list. But just do a
Yep.
quick Google or email us, right? We can flip you the PDF. The rental growth rate, it's flat. Like rental rates are not going up. Okay. Rental rates are coming down. Rental rates are not going up. So vacancies up. There's more units vacant, which means more landlords need to fill it, which means more landlords are willing to reduce their prices or give incentives to fill their rental units. Now, we'll see a short term bump in supply. Condos and purpose built rentals are going to flood our market if they haven't already. Lots and 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 lots of condos from rent. Not, and then there's going to be a shit ton more purpose-built rentals. All up and down
Yeah.
King Street in Kitchener, crazy right now. Other major thoroughfares, Highland, Fisher Hallman, Ira Needles, Uptown Waterloo by University of Columbia, University and Weber, all back in
Yeah.
there, all student rentals, purpose-built renters. Those are going to get dumped onto our market in the next 2 to 3 years because
Yeah.
builders have shifted to build those to get out from projects because they can't sell anything now. So they'll rent it and get what little back they can. Now, where the opportunity lies is demand for rentals is softening as more of them come to market and as vacancy rates get up. And since immigration is really slowing and non-permanent resident students aren't staying right now because they're getting shipped out if they don't have
Yeah.
work, well, what we're seeing is a lot more incentives. So landlords are doing a 1 month free or reduced rent for the first 6 months or first year or free storage lockers or free extra parking. Like they need to fill units. Now, what's tricky is some builders and developers will need to fill units at specific prices. So they will offer incentives to get the price they need. Where others that have existing stock, like mine, for example, I have a couple small rentals downtown, triplexes, fourplexes, that type of stuff. I'll just reduce my rate. I would rather get an A plus tenant at a cheaper rate immediately than get an extra 100 or 200 bucks a month and sit a month or two of vacancy. I don't need max rents for my existing rentals to make sense. I need a qualified tenant that's going to pay a fair rate. Okay, if I offer a fair rate right away and it's 100 or 200 bucks cheaper than all the other one beds or two bedrooms within 5 minute walk, I know I'm going to get attention. I'm going to get a tenant probably in 30 days or less. Where
Yeah.
we're seeing landlords really screw up is they want tippy top rent and they don't have a super sexy, super unique tippy top rental property. If you want
Yeah.
tippy top rent, your shit better be amazing. You better be really organized. It better look good online. Communication better be perfect, and it better be an incredible unit. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting on vacancies. And a lot of builders and a lot of developers are sitting on vacancies because they need that tippy top rent. And now, like, tenants just have choices for the first time in like 10 years. They're using it. I can feel it when I'm filling units for myself and for clients right now. The demand is soft for sure. And as that softened, Adam, rental rates will come down just a little bit more,
Yeah.
right?
I think what you're
So
probably experiencing too is a lot of investors trying to juice their appraisals or trying to maintain the paper value of the building. So that's where you could
so they
see
can
some of
get a
those
renewal on it for
incentives.
Christ's sake, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's a real thing, right? Like when you start to look at lease rates and then renewals are in question, that can get a little tricky, especially if rates go up. So I think that's what's probably happening. So, again,
Absolutely.
that's a cautionary tale for folks buying right now is like, buy with the worst case in mind, right? You want to invest your best, but like, you know, have the worst case in mind in case situations like this happen, right? If you can't experience a 2 to 4% vacancy rate and you can't experience a little bit of inflation, it's not an investment. It's a gamble.
It's a little bit of a risk. So I play
Right.
the game. Excuse me. I play the Game of Thrones game. I find an investment I like, and then I play the game that Peter Baelish taught Sansa and Arya. It's like he's like, hey, like I will, if I don't know what somebody wants, I expect the worst, and the worst is they can kill me. So if they were going to kill me, how would they
Right.
do it? I do the same thing with my investments. I'm like, hey, if everything goes as bad as humanly possible, what are all the ways that this investment property could go to shit? And how would I go bankrupt if I buy this? Like that is the worst case. I go belly up. How would it get there? Exactly. Okay. Can I do 6 month vacancy for 50% of my building? Can't like just I'll start thinking crazy. And it's like it gets a little dark and scary sometimes, but you got to touch that part of the idea of the investment because it can happen. It's not
Yeah.
likely, but that stuff can happen. So just to
Yeah.
insulate yourself, right? But to wrap up the rental market conversation, even though it's getting better, it's getting slightly more affordable for people buying, it's getting slightly more affordable for people renting, affordability is still a major problem. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go in here and pretend like all of a sudden everybody's able to afford beautiful apartments and there's lots of them available and end users are all happy. Dude, it is still very expensive. It is still not very affordable for everyday Canadians to live what was traditionally a normal lifestyle. It's still very expensive. And the prospects of it getting better I just aren't improving. I'm pretty sure Carney was speaking here yesterday, the day before, saying it's
The
gotten
most
much more
affordable
affordable
time.
recently, and I had to stop watching that clip because I just hurt my head. I was just
I
like,
think
dude,
his
I know
actual
a
quote
lot of
was it's the most affordable time in Canadian history, and that's fucking absurd. That's
like,
absurd.
are we at
It's
what
just not.
point in? No, exactly. At what point in society were we allowed to just lie and it be
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
I mean,
crazy.
that's politics. That's politics for you. That's politics for you.
By the way, sorry, just one more note on that. That's a bipartisan fucking issue. Affordability is everybody. Like, we do try to kind of stay away from the politics on the channel, but guess what? When somebody says affordability is the best it's ever been, and that, and you look around and go, "Do I have more money than I've ever had?" As the average Canadian, no, you don't. And I know that. You know that. The rates are crazy. Things have been nuts. Like, there's so much uncertainty. There's been so much inflation. It's just bullshit.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I think the powers of Canada were the prospects of, free speech, free will, prospects of, being able to make something from yourself. And I think all those things are still like the greatest parts of Canada. They're just more watered down and a little bit
They're
shittier.
muted.
And
Yeah.
they're not like, and then the prospects of the important things of Canadian culture is the freedoms that you get to make your choices and to live a life of freedom that a lot of countries just don't have. And I think local Canadians don't understand that for a lot of people coming
Yeah.
from other parts of the world. That being said, they're getting more watered down and they're getting harder to get and they're getting more expensive. And I think when that happens and the prospects of them improving are getting worse, not getting better, that's where people really feel it in the gut and in the heart, being like, man, don't spit in my face and tell me it's raining. Spit in
Yeah.
my face and tell me you spit in my face, but you're going to try and clean it up. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, we digress.
Short-term
The
trends.
the short-term trends. This is the part for people that watching the video that are like, hey, like I think I kind of want to consider some options in the next 6 to 12 months. This is kind of the few hot points I want to hit. Buyers, they were really hesitant last year. Real estate agents and real estate brokers last year were like, this is the year we're rebounding, quick rebuild, let's go. Yeah, no. Rates hadn't settled. There's still a shitload of inventory, and everybody was still scared, and nobody had any money because financing was choked everywhere. So now you're starting to see, first-time home buyers, upsizers in particular, they're looking behind the curtains a little bit, saying, okay, maybe we'll make something happen, right? I've been showing a ton of properties, kind of like 600 to a million the last month or two. Just kind of the tenant pro or the client profile I got right now. And like it's definitely more competitive. And there's not a ton of great deals at any one of those price points. So if there are good deals that come up, they're flying. We're seeing a lot of multiple offers. We're seeing a lot of people start to adopt the list it low, take offer date, get multiple offer situation again. So buyers, get ready to rock and roll. I think it's a good time to upsize. We got some kind of suggestions or some other trends at the end that I've seen just had direct to deals happen recently. For investors though, you're you guys all left because cap rates were getting shit, interest rates flipped, and then LTB was shit too. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but it's the truth.
Yes, you can. The
Um,
LTV was a giant piece of shit for a very long time with 6-month wait lists for
yeah,
non-payment for people that had already not been paying. That's a problem.
I will say my last few experiences with LTB, we did LTB mediation, my last one, and then LTB right to ruling, and it was pretty like a little
Good.
bit quicker for sure, and a lot more direct. I felt the tone slightly change.
Good.
That's just my personal experience for the last two I've been to the last 4 months. But still a heaping pile of steaming shit. Cap rates though starting to improve. You love to see it. We love to see it into the fives and the sixes. Okay, we're starting to get a little bit more
Okay.
interesting. And then interest rates, commercial lenders and residential lenders, goddamn, are they thirsty for some new files because nobody's been buying shit for the last year or two.
Yeah.
So I would have some aggressive conversations with your lenders or your mortgage brokers just about that environment, what they expect rates to kind of be at for the next 3 to 6 months. So if you need to lock in something, do that probably sooner rather than later. But obviously, just rely on your professional's advice. Sellers, I'm only going to say this: you have to nail your pricing and your strategy. There are more buyers, but they are still hesitant and they aren't holy shit motivated to buy right now because they know prices aren't going to take massive jumps in the next 3 to 6 months. Whereas before, if I don't buy a property today, next month it's 10 grand higher, month after that it's 20 grand higher. Where now they're like, if I have to wait an extra 3 months to find a deal and it cost a really good deal, but it only cost me an extra 5 or 10 grand, I'll roll the dice on that. And that's what they're doing. So you're seeing conditional offers, you're seeing some sale buyer properties, you're seeing a lot of listings just not get a ton of action for a couple weeks, right? So there's some deals to be had. Sellers, do not dick around. If you overlist your property, i.e., you price it even 5% higher to leave room for negotiating, unless it's a mega rare property or just a super unique property that you can't find comparable sales to and it's just impossible to price, you're screwing yourself.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. You got to price it well. And then renters, you have some relief, but it's temporary. Your rental rates will rebound a couple years down the road from now. Not next year, not this year, a couple years down the road as all this supply that's coming to the market, all the condos start getting filled and getting sold. You have some relief here for the next, call it 12 to 24 months. Use it to your advantage, lock in a good rental. And landlords, like, reward your tenants that are good. I've had conversations with my tenants paying like really good rents, be like, hey, listen, we'd love to have you here. If you're looking at other apartments, no problem. Just give us a call before you sign something else. We'd love to keep you here. You've been a great tenant. If there's anything else we can do to keep you happy, work with us,
Yeah.
right? I don't want my tenants leaving when vacancy is going up and rental rates are going down. Stay with me. You take care of me, I take care of you. Please
Yeah.
have that conversation, right? Um, and then market prices. I think we did predictions in December. I hope we clip those to go over at the end of this year because I want to laugh at myself and how dumb and wrong I am. But market prices, they're flat. They're likely slight increase in volume this year because we're seeing a little bit more people start to transact. And I would say prices likely up for detached homes, price per square foot for properties under $1 million. I would say freehold townhouses prices will slightly go up. Semi-detached prices slightly go up. Condos will be down. Stacked towns will be down a little bit. And your price per square foot for properties kind of like above 2,500 square feet, that price per square foot will come down a little bit too. That's just clip it. Clip
Clip
that
it.
because
Put it
that'll
in
be
the
a good meme
comments.
for how wrong we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now 3 to 10 year trends. This is more, let's call it mid to long term. Supply is going to get choked by demand and or water. Hilarious. Um, HST rebates. So there's just not going to be a ton of supply of freehold properties, guys. There's just not. There's not going to be a ton of good freehold properties. They're not building enough of those. So HST rebate and forgiveness, that's a nice little treat. We talked about there being more incentives being brought into the market as supply just wasn't getting taken care of. Here we go. That's the first domino to fall. They just released that, I want to say like 3 days ago. So end of March, the government just came out with that. Now, what's going to happen is inventory eventually is going to fall because we're not building anything. We just talked about that 20-year low in terms of housing starts. That means prices and rental rates will slowly start to creep up again. It's a cycle. Real estate is a big, slow, fat cycle. So
Yep.
inventory is going to fall. Call it 3 to 5 years. We'll start to see cracks of that happening in different market segments. 10 years from now, will likely be at the end of an upward cycle, potentially, right? Cap rates are going to get pinched. I don't see that happening for a little while. That'll really depend on how aggressive they want to be keeping interest rates where they're at or even increasing
Yeah.
them in the short term. But 3 to 5 years down the road, we'll be back into the fours and the five cap rates, not the five, six, seven, eights. And then property owners and renters, we're going to fight for the good stuff. That is
Yep.
prime locations, prime features, or affordable rates. One of the things we didn't mention on the rental rates was you're seeing way less competition for properties priced on the higher end of the averages. Anything that's considered affordable, anything that's considered not like even average rents, anything that's below average rents, mega competitive, less than a 1.5% vacancy rate.
Yeah.
So there's still competition for affordable stuff. Um, I think that's a pretty quick summary. I want to get into that more, but I do kind of want to keep the video a little bit as short as possible because we're already been
Yep.
going on. But the so what segment, in my personal experience, right now, a lot of my upsizers looking for personal homes, they're crushing it because they got a
Yeah.
few hundred K in equity from the home they bought 5, 10, 15 years ago still. And they can use that like for an extra 200 grand compared to what you can sell your house for. If you're going from 500 to 700K, or you're going from 700 to 900K, you're getting like double that.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing big jumps in quality of life for that extra 100 or 200 grand. And I'm talking like 100 or 200 grand isn't an insane amount of money to most people because it is. I realize that. But just like 500K is a ton of money. 700K is also a ton of money. But that 200K jump is just like, holy cow.
Yeah.
You get so much more house for that. And there's not an egregious amount of competition in those spaces yet. Right. The the summary though too, and you mentioned it earlier when we right before we talked about rental rates, was the uncertainty in the short term and mixed it with a little bit of inventory. You got opportunity. Renters have choice and opportunity, Adam, to negotiate or to get some incentives from landlords. Investors, there's like 900, not 900, there's 99 multi units on the market. When I checked yesterday morning, there's only 3 sales from the last 2 weeks.
Jeez.
There's not much
Wow.
move-in. Now, that doesn't mean you're one of those 100 deals, one of those 100 properties is gonna be a perfect deal for you. But like, if I'm an investor and I have a property I'm trying to sell, and I'm seeing that nothing's moving, and I need to move
Yeah.
mine or I want to move mine, I might have to make some concessions. So like, Adam is a big proponent of increasing volume of offers, as am I. A lot of investors just try and put too much energy and time into one specific offer
Yes.
on one property. Let the offers fly. I'm even telling my
Yeah.
buyers. The only time I'll advise my buyer not to make an offer is if it is genuinely going to hurt their ability to get that property. If
Yeah.
like an agent or seller has explicitly said, "Do not bring me an offer
Yeah.
like XYZ," okay, no problem. I
Yep.
respect your communication. Thank you. Other than that, letting them fly, baby. Right?
Yeah.
Um, City and region, they're playing games with residents and consumers are going to end up paying the price. The water issue, the debt charges, we're going to talk about that. But I think the big so what highlight here is the market's balancing. It's not crashing, it's not booming. Last year, it was still coming down a little bit. It was very obvious. Rental rates were starting to come down. Inventory was up big time. Nothing's moving, volume down. All those things are still true now, but so much less aggressive. And we're slowly starting to see different market segments turn into way more balanced, way more aggressive than they had been the last 2, 3 years. So we're balancing, we're not crashing, we're not booming. God forbid we have a balanced market for a couple of years. That would be a nice little treat for everybody, Adam. To bring it home, we're going to talk about deals and then we're going to talk about the water. Deals, vacant duplexes right now. You can buy, there's a couple vacant duplexes on the market right now that you can buy 20% down at asking price, and you're making a couple $100 a month with a margin of safety for maintenance, for property management, and for vacancies. Okay, house hack that bitch. First time investors, grab that. It's a good first step, right? Not too risky. You're not putting up 500, 600 grand to close on these things, right? You need a buck to a buck 50 to close on these bad boys and have some oopsie money left over. You're not going in and renovating them 50, 100K as soon as you take possession. Okay. Lower risk for somebody that wants to kind of dip their toes in and do everything themselves to learn, hey, what are we really doing in investing? Okay. Now, value add single family homes or primary residence flips, house hacks, primary residence duplex conversions, chef's kiss. Where are my investors that down to get a little dirty, down to do a house hack? I smell so many deals in this space right now because buyers are still very much willing to pay a premium for a home in good condition. And I have personally had multiple people in the trades reach out to me asking for work in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Their builders and developers are slowing, trades are becoming more available, and price points for these types of properties that need work aren't awful, and there's not as much competition for them. Okay, that environment just gives you a little bit more leverage and a little bit more control as somebody looking to buy and operate that type of property. And I'll beat these two drums. I will beat probably because I'm doing these type of deals right now for myself, but also because they freaking work. Buy and hold still works. Like
Yeah.
buying a buying a rental property at a good price. I put 10 plus units in brackets there because that's kind of in my local market here in Waterloo Region. That's kind of where we see cost per door and cap rates just take a nice little, okay, that's that little sweetener on top, right? And that's kind of the number of units you need to have the tenants that are paying lower rents be offset by enough of the tenants that are paying higher rents. Like guys, like listen, I got a sexy economics degree. Yeah, I've been in the business for 10 years. Yeah, I've had my hands on some complicated deals, but like I'm a simple man. I don't know any broke guys and girls that own a couple multi-unit properties and hold them for 10, 20 years. You just
Yeah.
don't. It's just going
Yeah.
to be a little bit, it's not going to be as sexy as you might want, and it's just going to be a little bit slower than you might want, but it's going to work. So like, I don't hate the buy and holds, Adam. Don't hate them,
Yeah.
right? Um, Infill, water issue dependent. We're skipping right to that. Ah!
No, I knew it. I knew you would do it.
I have to. And then I just couldn't bring myself to I couldn't bring it myself to make it sexy because there's nothing sexy about this. All right, for those of you that stuck around to the end of the video, I'm gonna make Adam want to puke. I'm gonna make any of you property holders in Waterloo Region or investors and developers just want to punch your screen. Please don't do that. The Region of Waterloo Supply Concern. We have approved a temporary fix and begun to work on it. Supposed to get done in June. If that goes well, apparently there's going to be a committee that is then going to put out a report that says which projects they will likely approve or not approve, assuming this temporary fix this summer actually happens and goes well. Now, I have never seen the city move anything this quickly, let alone approve, millions of dollars invested in an infrastructure project and then actually execute on it quickly. So like I would be
Yeah.
shocked if this actually even happens, let alone in a relative good time frame. So temporary fix confirmed, already on the works, should be done in June. If that goes well, new committee comes together and says, okay, based on this temporary fix, here's what we think we can do for the next little bit. We know at most we're only going to be able to take care of 50% of the developments that we projected we would have. So we just need to pick and choose which ones we're going to say yes and no to. Once that gets done, they will be able to give clear direction to people in Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo for what projects will likely get approved so that at least some development can continue. Now,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of ifs, and I have less faith now than I did before, which was already zero. And I think I just need to say my piece on this. My piece is this is my mindset is how can I get shit done? My mindset is how do I do more with less? And I feel like governments just consistently do less with more. And it just drives me up the wall. Because while all this is going on, the city of Waterloo comes out and says development charges are going up in the city. And it makes me want to throw my laptop
Yeah.
because, listen, I think as a society, everybody acknowledges that eventually things are going to get more expensive. We have a finite amount of resources, lots of things change, and lots of things are involved in having a healthy, nice, enjoyable community to live in that has services that people are going to use. It takes a
Yep.
lot of time and energy and money, and eventually things are going to change, break, evolve, come out of terms, need fixing, whatever it might be. So we need money to do things. But the insanely poor management over an extended period of time through multiple different regimes is just frankly disrespectful to your residents. And I think a lot of people are fed up. And so
Yeah.
when you have a lot of people in the listen, this is coming from somebody who's like, I'm in business to make money. I want to make money because I can spend my money better than my government can spend my money. Right. So like I just want to make that clear to anybody that's still watching the video. Like that's my position. But it's just really frustrating when you get a lot of non-answers. And when you do get answers, they just effing suck. So
Yeah.
for developers, for builders, for people looking to get involved in those projects, I would tread with extreme caution. And even once we have a little bit more clarity on these committees, on the approval of the development charges and what they're going to be, like there is a big element of risk in the market in the short term. With that risk does come opportunity. And as somebody who loves risk, me, Zach, loves risk. I am taking a half a breath on this, Adam. Just saying, hey, we really got to see which direction this is going to go. Because if my strategy is to buy and hold real estate and then develop some infill projects for the next 5 to 10 years, okay, if the infill projects are going to be 10 times more of a headache and, an extra 5 to 10% more expensive for development charges, I got to revamp my model. So we're looking at everything right now. We have taken a wait and see approach because frankly, the amount of times the cities have changed their mind and changed their tone is just shows that they just really don't know what's going to be happening. That's okay, but we're watching like a hawk. But usually I like to be cautiously optimistic, but I don't even know if I'm optimistic. I'm just cautious right now. So for investors out there, like if you're have information on this, if you want to know what we know, if you want to hop on a call and discuss some specific scenarios you're working through with the cities that you're working with, we're an open book. We're still learning a ton, but we've collaborated with a lot of builders and developers the last 3 months since this stuff is coming out. A lot of smaller to mid-sized guys working on projects currently, but also have projects in the queue and how they're interacting with the city of Waterloo and the city of Kitchener and kind of their vibes on how they're really communicating if they should really continue to work on these projects or if they should say pump the brakes because some decisions are being made. So I know a lot of vague comments because that's really what we're getting from everybody we're talking to. But if you have questions and concerns, hit them in the comments. All of our contact information, Adam, is in the description. I'm assuming you feel the same way about a lack of water and development charges. Like, how are we going to promote? Like, all these costs are just going to get
Yeah.
pushed down onto the consumers. Your renters are going
Oh,
to pay more
that's
money. Your end users are going to pay more for the buildings. Like,
yes. That was my first thought. The builders that otherwise would have made projects and essentially decrease the total cost for any person entering are going to leave or be discouraged by something like this, and then the ones that
yep,
do build are going to pass those costs on and increase the total cost to the market. That's just reality. I think
those
there's no
the
other
bigger
way to look.
guys will have enough margin where they can
Of
continue to
course.
bring stuff to market and wait for the end user to pay them more to compensate them
Well,
for their additional costs.
and there's an important thing here too. It's sometimes not even that they have enough margin. It's sometimes that they literally just don't want to lose their crews or their trades. So the big guys will
100%.
still play at a margin that the small guy could never play at in order
100%.
to maintain their operational capacity in the future. So
100%.
it's like so crazy how impacted the little guy gets by stuff like this. And
Yeah.
yeah, I
Well, it's
mean, I
okay. In 10 or,
disagree
10 or
completely
15
with that
years, we're not
stuff.
going to have any trades to build anything anyway, Adam. So, why don't we
Sure.
just cross that bridge when we get there too,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's a little bit
Yeah.
of a dumpster fire, but
Yeah.
out of the fire comes opportunity and Elmo.
Sure.
So I'm looking forward to kind of figuring out how the region's going to actually solve the problem because I have very little confidence right now. We will
Yeah.
report back on that. I think in the next video or two, we're going to be doing update videos on the sixplex. We're going to be launching some property tours. So if you guys are interested in that, hit us up on the investor hot list so you guys can get the emails. If you have specific needs for your portfolio, if you have vacancies, if you want to know, should I renovate? Should I sell? Should I keep? Should I refinance? Specifically for your stuff here in Waterloo Region, send us an email with your questions or concerns. I get those emails personally, and I will personally follow up to as much as I can. And just again, thank you for everybody that's tuning in. I've had some great conversations lately, Adam. It's been awesome. And honestly, the comments on the sixplex and the tenplex videos, they were
Yeah.
fantastic too. I think spring's going to be much more interesting this year than it was last year. Last year, a little flat, a little boring. We're going to see
Yeah.
some action this year in Waterloo Region, baby. I'm looking forward to it.
I love that, Zach. Well, thanks again so much for coming back on the channel today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And for anybody sticking around, I hope you'll join us back here next month where Zach's going to unpack some more about the properties and projects he's been working on. And of course, we'll get some stats and we'll start to understand again what's actually happening in the region over time. And again, we're hearing it from Zach here, who's actually out there doing it. He's investing, he's building, he's developing, he's working with clients that could be just like yourselves at home. So thanks again, Zach. Appreciate you. See you back here next month.